What a horrible morning. I have to tell you, I really had enough today. I woke up at 6 o'clock. The last few months, I don't wake up before 11 o'clock. And the lights are not on anymore because it's still it's going to winter. So I just dressed up. The alarm went off. I dressed up. I take my dogs out. And then I say, Alexa, turn on the light. And then I hear, what the hell? Do it yourself. That's what happens when your wife's name and the AI assistant, they share the same name. So if your wife is Alexa named, please change it because Amazon will not do theirs. That's how AI and the rest of the things, they're shaping my environment. Now, with no further ado, good morning, everybody, and I'll be very glad to introduce how AI smart systems are reshaping shipping. Now, definitely you know how it reshaped my future, but anyway, I would say that the maritime industry, it is the backbone of the global trade, and you know very well we transfer more than 90% of the world's goods through the ships. But through the centuries, we went to different revolutions and different changes. We went from the sail to the steam engine to the internal combustion engine, and today we're getting into the so-called digital transformation. Artificial intelligence, blockchain, IoTs, or whatever you may call it. What still remains, and we have to understand, we still are the most important industry in the world, and nobody can change that. Because aviation can do that, please let me know, definitely not gonna be in my lifetime. Now, in order to discuss this today, I have a nice panel, which I'll call them now 4 experienced people. Please have your seats while I'm calling you name by name because I don't remember everything by heart. Mr. Fouad Chaarani, Managing Partner, Xenatus Global. Thomas Asproudis, co-founder and head of innovation of M2 Intelligence. I think we just saw Thomas before. Christiana, Aristidou, founder, partner, director, the hybrid LawTech firm. Mr. Aris, Constantinou, Marine Surveyor, Shipping Deputy Ministry. I always confuse that. Monica Ioannidou, Polemitis, partner, TK, Managing Director, EMEA. Now, I will take my seat as well, but before I take my seat, I'm going to share with you an experience, which I see it happening with the so-called artificial intelligence. And especially someone, I don't remember, was it, I think it was Xenatus, which we saw the cortex, the brain in the middle, and the other things going around. When I started my career, before I joined the Garamondani people in Cyprus, I was a trainee with the British shipbuilders. And the reason they collapsed on the time, it was simply because they automated the manual thing. Because the Japanese automated the sandwich method. Now, what I'm trying to say, I heard the thing, if we use AI, we're going to have our task being done. No, we have to think how we do everything in a completely different way, because this is a new brain, that's why it's called artificial, coming into play. So if we're going to automate again the manual things that we're doing today, I'm afraid someone else will do it on our behalf and start something new. And we're going to have a bigger competition between nations. I'm not going to talk about the United States of America and China at the moment, but you know where I'm going to. So without any further kind of mumbling from my side, I would like to discuss the state of adoption, opportunity versus reality. Monica, since you're sitting next to me, we hear a lot about the potential of artificial intelligence in areas like route optimization, predictive maintenance, and so on. What is the most impactful smart system or AI application that you, because you just shared with us some information, implemented today? What was the single greatest barrier for this uptake by at least your own company or the industry in general?
Thank you. So there are 2 routes to take when it comes to AI. One is to do it gradually and implement small proofs of concept, which seems to be working for most companies because, and linked to the obstacles that you have mentioned, there is still a very low level of readiness in many companies and in many industries. It's not just in shipping. But the most transformational implementation of AI is when there is an overhaul of the organization, which signifies disruption as well. What I mean is that if you have a group of companies, for example, that struggle to have insights in their group, the artificial intelligence getting those insights, both based on historical and then giving you predictive results as well, is something that could be transformational for the company. The biggest obstacle, as I said in my presentation as well, and the biggest pushback is cost, because artificial intelligence requires upfront investment. It's not plug and play. It's not just purchasing software. And with artificial intelligence, you are not just buying a system. You are investing in a capability, and if you only see it like if only you see it like this, sorry, I'm just playing with the microphone. If you see it like this, then you understand the value of the investment, but it's long term. So the pushback is cost, and also the readiness of the organizations and the people to adopt AI internally. AI literacy is something critical, because if you don't have the people to operate the systems and be aware of what they have at their hands, then it's just another investment that will not be utilized to its extent.
Thank you, Monica. But Thomas, you also, when you presented, you touched on these points. I would like you to supplement if you have anything on this part of the question.
I really agree with what Monica mentioned. It really resonates with me. I think there are two things that we need to take under consideration, and one is I'm gonna take it from where Monica left it, is costs. AI is there's all this fuss about it and around it, but there's a certain cost which there's a portion of it above the surface and a much bigger portion of it under the surface. It's like an iceberg. Okay, I'm sure you heard this, paromiosi again and again, but especially with AI, it's not about just investing in systems that will cost 1, 10,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million euros, dollars, whatever that is, but the hidden costs, because if you invest in solutions and let's say you spend $1 million for your organization and you don't spend that amount, if not more, to educate your people, to cultivate internal procedures, get the people truly on board into utilizing those technologies, that investment will go down the drain. So we need to think holistically and act with our hearts, because not our hearts and our brains, because AI is bringing all these, nice efficiencies and things that we can go forward with, but we need to keep the human at the core of this new revolution.
But Thomas, now that you're mentioning keeping the human in the loop, that's how I would like to call it. I spent all my life, in my professional life, unfortunately, running around for regulatory framework, especially on safety, protection of the environment, and all that kind of things. The question I have is the uptake or the advancement of smart shipping, because that's what we're actually talking right now. I would not call it autonomous for sensitive reasons, but the smart shipping has fundamentally changed the concept of safety. The regulations do remain prescriptive and no goal-based regulations. I mean, that's pies in the sky for shipping at the moment. So how would you comment on that, and how we will need to shape our regulatory framework? And Mr. Aristos, get ready to follow on this one, because I see the industry of digital going Speedy Gonzales and the others going ballerinas on water.
Well, Andreas the Great. Well, thank you. This is an amazing question, and I think it's something that will define our industry for the next decade or so. I mentioned in my presentation that, I'm a hybrid. My background's a bit of a hybrid, okay, and I've been serving 4 different market verticals over my 20 years in the market. But what I have found out is that, you know, a new technology, new revolution comes up, and we think that something magical is going to happen, and you know, that technology is going to replace that, and that technology is going to replace the other, and now AI is going to replace people. Obviously, and I'm sure you're not hearing it from me first time, you've heard it from so many people, AI, well, if implemented well, and we can define that, is really going to add superpowers. It's not an exaggeration, it's not an overstatement, ladies and gentlemen, and I can explain why very pragmatically. The thing is, again, I mentioned in my presentation that AI is not a panacea. So we need to keep what works already, what works well. So we need to keep the juice from, you know, all the fuzz around it. We're still going to have captains. We're still going to have, you know, most of the personnel we know right now that is on board a ship, and the ashore teams. We just need to retrain them. We need to cultivate, you know, those people, the culture within the company, and we're gonna play in the next few years a game of, you know, dancing chairs. I'm pretty sure you all know this game. Maybe you've played it when you were children. So we will still have a captain, but that captain, after a few years, is not going to be on the vessel. He's just going to be at an ashore headquarters, and you can put as much magic as you like or not into that, you know, with screens and augmented realities and digital twins, etc., etc. And actually, what I believe is that the role of that captain and his crew is going to be even more important when they're going to be ashore, especially in the first few years that we're going to see the change and people being, initially I expect not removed, but duplicated. So having a captain on the vessel and a master captain ashore, you know, and how these two will communicate, how these will work seamlessly together, that's going to be a challenge, you know, Andreas.
It's like a pilot and a captain, right?
Sure. And, you know, yeah.
Aristos, I want you to get into this from your regulatory background, I would say.
I get used to that regulatory background a lot. I'm going to shoot off from, I picked up something from what Thomas said earlier about superpowers. And with great power comes great responsibility, quoting Spider-Man here. We all know who he is. So, pun intended, I will have to admit my caveman status when it comes to IoT systems, coming from being at sea and serving as a marine engineer for a few years, and now with the ministry, the competent authority, the Ministry of Shipping, inspecting ships and port facilities. Nevertheless, we have to be accepted and be part of the game as regulators and competent authorities. So, coming to Andreas' question, we have to admit, and we all see it, and it's evident there, because my main unit and responsibilities in the ministry is port and port facility security in general. We all know that port facilities are living organisms. They change by the day, like amoebas or microorganisms. They work 24/7, you know that very well. We all know that smart ports nowadays evolve from the traditional gateways just delivering cargo left and right into digital command centers. So what I was thinking when setting up this panel and discussing with Andreas is two basic elements. Is AI-driven systems will optimize vessel stay in port and yard management by incorporating data like real-time data, like estimated time of arrivals, weather, cargo type, tides in ports and congestion, and keep that into systems like PCS, the well-known PCS that with port community systems or any other blockchain, And through that, I believe that we will minimize waiting times and delays and maximize the output. The other element that I see on that, crucially, is data standardization and sharing. If we manage, it's still on the way, but if we do manage to have that, to have shared, secure platforms for all stakeholders, like ship agents, competent authorities, managers, port terminals, and everybody else in the arena playing this game, throwing and injecting a system of database completely secured in that, having to share that, that will optimize the services and create a safe and secure platform for everybody involved. I was tempted not to, wasn't tempted not to mention something about my area, but port security. It's also part of the game, strengthening, incorporating AI and IT systems into port security. What I'm saying is keeping together real-time data like surveillance cameras, CCTVs, from drones, from cameras, from patrols, intrusion efforts, cargo tampering, unauthorized access, cyber attacks, and if you do that proactively, then you're ready to protect and support the system. So just want to take too much time of this panel. I was just keeping in mind these two very critical elements, that AI system will bring the foresight, and data sharing will bring the trust. So if you put the two together, foresight from AI systems and trust on database centers, I guess my humble experience, then ports and port facilities around the world will become global and secure hubs for global shipping and everybody involved.
I hear what you say, and I do understand the standardization is a prerequisite. That's why we have the S211, for example. But the question here, and that's not only to Aristos, it goes to all of you, just to supplement of what Aris just mentioned. The concept of just in time, I'm not going to go to any security or trust into the data, just go to reality of shipping. If we today wanted to reduce the carbon footprint of shipping by 5% instantly, we can do just in time, which is don't want to wander around the port areas, we don't want to wait at the roads, and we arrive when the cargo is ready to load, or we arrive when the berth is empty for unloading. But we don't do that because people don't want to share data.
Exactly.
So it's not about trust, and I work on this environment for 7 years. It's not about trust. One thing is simple. The port is a state within a state. You are going to go to Rotterdam. You are going to go to Hong Kong. So is there any way the AI systems can convince these people to see this subject differently, in a different way? I mean, there is no such thing as a free lunch. If they don't gain anything, they are not going to gain anything because they're not going to increase their traffic. They will go there. We see that more systems are used in Piraeus because you went from A to Z. That makes sense. But now that it's at the zenith, how do you convince them that they have to share data? Fouad, can you help me on this one? If there's anything we can do for them to share data.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah, go
before
on. No, I'm just asking if someone can help me.
No, it's thinking about it is having the experience of visiting ports around Europe, an exchange program between competent authorities and all that. Okay, let's fly out of the island, our republic here, going to Rotterdam, like you mentioned, or Belgium. You have tens of even hundreds of port facilities within a port. And you very correctly stated the keyword, state within a state. So when you have several sovereign states within a port, if you see the port as an umbrella and port facilities as the daughters inside the port, then we have to admit and take a look at the elephant in the corner. That's the problem, because you have several stakeholders and competitors within a port facility a bit reluctant to share data, and that's normal. That is normal. That's been what's happening, because they're competing about the same fruit, which at the end of the line is money and profit. And in one hand, we don't blame them, but then all of us together want them to work together. So part of our responsibility as competent authorities is to make sure to convince them that sharing data on data standard platforms, it's for everybody's benefits.
Yeah. But since we are on, do you want to say something, Christiana?
Yeah, I want to comment on this, having seen various projects on an ISO level as representing Cyprus in ISO, and we have seen these projects from ports, and I believe that we will be seeing soon this data sharing, and I want to share my experience. Why I say this is because this happened also with banks, and you will say to me, what are banks have to do with it? Banks were so reluctant to share data, and then they forced them. And they forced them, that's why we ended up having open banking. And what we are moving at soon, and I believe it will be very soon, it's open shipping regarding these areas. Because what we have seen with banks happened via regulation and standards. So if you want to force a situation, you can do it via standardization and regulation. So, of course, first of all, comes policy, but then regulation follows. So I believe that this is what is going to happen soon within the shipping area, because already we have seen various ports willing to start this effort and connect with other ports for the sharing of data. The same example I can share with the big tech. I mean, Apple and Google and all of these companies now are forced by law with the Data Sharing Act to share data. Yeah. So why I bring up these examples on banking, in relation to banking, and in relation to these big tech players, is that it can be done. Don't be surprised when you see this soon coming up. This is my opinion. This is what I believe.
Christiana, just a parenthesis, and I want your answer. The Port of Valencia, the Port of Rotterdam, the Port of Antwerp, they created their intelligent platforms of sharing data. Next port, whatever the other is called, from Voyager or whatever, Pond from Rotterdam and so on. Now, between these three ports, they can do it, but when you go to sell it to port number 2, they don't buy it certain times because they don't trust the one selling them, because it's again owned by the big boss. But that's a statement.
I agree.
That's a statement from experience. But the other thing is, I agree with you, there will be a time that the regulation will hammer them to share the data. And the banking system and the big the trading data thing, it's very pertinent. The only problem we don't have a foundation, convention, or agreement on that. Ports have never been actually internationally regulated. They exist under international community, and they meet and they agree between themselves, but it is like the Kyoto Protocol that you know very well, that it doesn't exist anymore, but it was commitments.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not like you have to do it and you do it. So, but since we are on this one, and you love sustainability,
yes.
Okay, go on. I know you flabbergasted to say something. Go on.
We have so many examples.
Yeah.
I mean, previously with NIS2, we see the ship owners being brought from, we see the move of the regulation from compliance, they now have legal liability under NIS2. So we see how this is done via regulation and via, you get it without even noticing, you know? And it happens in a night, within a night. So this is my experience from what I see. As an EU expert, because now I'm an EU expert, recognized expert, I work for the EU on different projects, and I'm funded by the EU on projects. And also I see this on ISO level and CSN level, which is the standardization committees, the standardization bodies of Europe. Within a few days, the European Commission can issue standardization requests and can force us to work 24 hours to just bring about these standards. So if they want to do it, they do it really fast, in my opinion.
As the system is today,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right, because
Yes.
they're the only ones that can produce regulation and adopt it. I don't think it will be in the future, I'm afraid. That's my personal opinion. Go on very quickly, because I want to move.
Very, very quickly. So what? Okay, again the same thing. Nobody can hear me, right?
Yeah,
I'll
just
just. Okay, I'll just.
I
I'll
think,
just go again.
Manos
The
speak-
I need to sing again. Okay.
Manos is speaking on you on
Yeah,
purpose.
right, cool, thank you. So what happens, really quickly? Sometimes for things to change, there needs to be the right forces, right? I don't mean to overanalyze this when it comes to camera-based systems, but United States USCG came in and said, I'm making compulsory to have it on internal spaces for issues that have to do with sexual harassment, blah, 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 blah. Then Port of Port Hedland came, then India came, and we know for sure that so many other countries are right, sure.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So there are so many other countries that are about to force the same regime, the same rules. So the harsh reality is that for things to change, sometimes arrows need to step in and make it a reality. We've seen it so many other times, with ECDIS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that the same is going to happen more or less with the ports, although I know that there's a very special regime and status when it comes to ports and port authorities, okay? But that was just a small addition. I see it happening, I see it coming.
But since we're on this kind of an environment, Christiana, I'm coming to you now. I spent 15 years of my life in shipping to stop oil getting into water. We did that, and we were very happy, and suddenly we got hammered by the decarbonization, at that time, the greenhouse gas issues. Now, how can AI help us on this one? Because the last 5 years I stuck with alternative fuels, which I don't see anyone appearing that is good enough, or there is abundant that the shipping industry can use. So something along those lines, can you enlighten the audience on this?
Definitely. Absolutely. They can help. But let me just set the scene so the audience can understand. First of all, we need to know the Paris Agreement, 2015, which is about the climate change. Then we see in Europe the Green Deal. Then on the Paris Agreement, we see the different, every year we see the COPs, the cooperation of the parties. This is based on the United Sustainable Development Goals, one of which is climate change. 16 Sustainable Development Goals. 17, because the 17th Sustainable Development Goal is partnerships for the 16 Sustainable Development Goals. Anyways, so where does decarbonization, let's say, falls is within this regime, let's say. So we need to decarbonize. We all know about the IMO's revised greenhouse gas strategy and the MARPOL, what the MARPOL says about this. So are we going to... I've heard the speakers at the beginning of the day this morning, they said, we're not sure if we will be able to achieve it. 2050 net zero, 20% reduction of emissions 2030, maybe both of these targets will not be achieved on time, but we are in the effort to do it. So, having said this, we see this a sort of move from the so-called blunt instrument of slow steaming, and we go to the AI, of course. But first, we go to data, and then we go to data-driven optimization, or data-enabled optimization, or data-based optimization. There is a hyphen in between. So why I'm saying this, because all the words, all the terms are correct, and we use them also on an ISO level and EU level. So this optimization, how do we do it? How do we do this optimization? Do we really understand how it works? I mean, I am replying to this question, and everyone's answers are defined by their experience. And I am a lawyer, and I'm a tech lawyer, working with Europe and ISO for standards, but also I'm a certified trainer of the state. So I educate the central bank, I educate CISEC, I educate authorities on various emerging technologies. So I like the fact that we discussed education previously. You said something really very important, and training. So this is it. So on an ISO level, when I said that we receive, we submit projects, there's an ISO lab for projects, technological projects. So then we go through, we analyze them, we see them, we break them down in components, and we see how these projects are composed of. And then we go for a standard. Like next week and in 2 weeks, Cyprus is proposing standards. On an ISO level, I will be presenting them personally. On an ISO level and CSN level. And they are related to what we are discussing here. So we see this continuous production, let's say, of standards. And yes, many AI-driven fuel optimization systems and many emission monitoring systems. Of course we do see them. Of course we do see them. And if they are implemented, they reduce consumption from 5 to 15% immediately.
Of fossil fuel. It's important.
Yes.
Because, where I'm trying to go, where I try to go is that we are building up on the data and the knowledge. That's exactly what I said at the beginning of what we know. The only fuel we know is fossil fuel. I have no idea if the alternative fuels, hydrogen, ammonia, will actually behave under that AI structure model, because I don't think they are generic AIs we're talking here. We're talking AIs that they are built on data.
You're right. They are already building. It's about the algorithms. Mm-hmm. So they are already building the relevant algorithms in order to be aligned with what you have just said. I mean, ammonia, for example.
No, I'm not arguing with you. Just it's what Thomas was saying before. AI is not panacea. So we don't think that AI will come in, and as soon as they manage to reduce the consumption, eventually they will be able to tell us what to do with the other fuels. For me, maybe we're going to have nuclear ships coming around in the near future. We may not need.
Of course.
There is already, that there is licensed quite a few of those running around now. The political problem is a different story.
But anyways, I do not have any doubt that AI systems will be able to do this.
But
I mean, with new types of fuels.
I do, because...
But we need to see the big picture. The big picture. So it's not just about reduction of emissions, which is the target, but it is also about verifiable sustainability, which means that these AI-driven, these AI-based systems, they keep this data, they create, they produce. So we need to understand that AI systems do decide. They are the brain. So whenever we feed them data, they do this process based on the algorithm for the output. This output that we get has been given to us via this decision-making process. So as a tech lawyer, what we are usually asked to do is to audit the decision-making of the system, of the particular AI system. We deal with companies that have like 20 AI systems. They use 20 AI systems, and they need to audit them. And this is what we really deal with, because, I mean, almost every day, because we want to see these AI systems which actually produce what? Not just data, trusted data. Because it's not about data. Data, we have so much data. I mean, it's everywhere. It's about trusted data. So at the end of the day, it's about trusted vessels.
Okay, I will leave it there. I will leave it there because I need to go further. Fouad, reality check. How do I get my company or my organization to AI? I know you for the last few years, and I know you know, I trust your knowledge.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
So, tell you the truth, I get asked this question by executives almost on a weekly basis. I get called in to different executive offices saying, AI is here. What do? I want AI. Give me AI. Well, let's kind of break it down a bit. AI is really comprised of 4 organizations, 3 things: retrieval, task management or workflow management, and then eventually autonomous AI. We've been talking, and my colleagues here have been talking about data and ingesting of data. Shipping companies, you guys have mountains and mountains of data.
Really?
You have to capitalize on it. You have to harvest it. If you don't, AI is worthless. So let's say we've managed to find a way to harvest that data, get it structured, get it arranged. The next step is you've all invested millions into your planned maintenance systems, crewing systems, HSQE, God knows whatever else you're running across the board. Are you going to go throw those all out the door tomorrow? Highly doubt it. It's great if you do, because you'll be a disruptor, as somebody mentioned earlier. But reality is they're not going to throw them out. You're going to take time to evolve these systems. You're going to need time to go through this. So what you do is you do a concept that's called hyper-automation. I take my systems, I take processes in my systems, I wrap them, create an equivalent of a black box approach. In, out, I know what's happening. And I start to run automations, and I start to capitalize on the AI that comes in it. Once I've done these first 2 steps, then comes the autonomous AI. The autonomous AI is meant to help me through the process. I was speaking to a CFO a few days ago, and we were talking about how can I get some autonomous things working. I gave him a very silly example. I said, what do bookkeepers do every day? First thing they do in the morning, they come, they download bank transactions. Get an autonomous robot to download those and relieve some of those items. So we need to start with simple steps. Governments today are racing at hundreds of kilometers an hour. I mean, the US, China, everybody's fighting. The race is on. If we don't start somewhere in this industry, we're already behind the 8 ball. I read this thing recently where it says AI is not a destination, it's a journey, and it's a fact.
I'm going to throw a question before I become interactive with the audience, because we've been mumbling for a long time here. I'm sure everybody will have something to ask. But a question to all of you. Fouad just said that if we don't get on the train now, we're going to lose the race. I believe the race between which shipping company will become more digital avert, or being behind, because being digital avert would definitely provide them a competitive edge or an advantage, although I'm not Michael Porter. But the question here is, Are we really believing, which lens are we wearing and we thinking shipping is not really acting on this one fast? As a maritime person, I think in the digital way, shipping has actually worked much faster than any other technologies we saw coming in the past. So I would like to have your views, Monica.
First of all, let me ground the discussion. I was listening to Christiana before. Artificial intelligence is a machine, essentially, learning from data. And it learns from data like a small child, right? Like a toddler, when they're learning their first words, when they're learning about their environment. And if that image of the environment, or if those words are not correct, then the machine will learn in the wrong manner. Just a few years ago, when we went to a work environment, we were the smartest brains in the room, right? We had the software, but we had to figure out the solution before we used those software. So we had to do a lot of thinking. For the first time, and this is why I say it's a paradigm shift, for the first time, we are not the most intelligent presence in the work environment. We depend on artificial intelligence to make content for us, to draw conclusions for us, to feed us information instead of us feeding it. So how many of you knew of artificial intelligence in the way we're talking about it in 2022? I'm sure not so many.
Some of us did. Yeah.
Some of us, but not in the way we're using it today.
No.
Right? Generative AI is something quite new. And we are now at the point where we're discussing that by 2028, we will have artificial general intelligence. Artificial intelligence that is much more intelligent than us, able to make decisions, aiming to drive our lives and our work. So if we don't act now, because in the 3 years we've seen how fast we have come where we are, if we don't act now, it's fine. You can continue your business as usual. You can continue using the same legacy software in the way you're using it today, download information in spreadsheets, save information in email clients. However, at the same time, some others are not doing the same. And the difference with shipping this time, I think, is that many companies in Cyprus are competing with other companies in Cyprus. A bank in Cyprus has Cypriot competitors, an insurance agent the same. But you are competing in a global environment, which means that if everybody else is moving at a speed that is very different to yours, I think you can assume what the result will be. So usually what drives companies to adopt something is one of the three, or all of the three together. It's technology that will increase revenue, it's technology that will reduce cost, or it's imposed by regulation. In this case, you need to understand how artificial intelligence will help your company, set strategic goals, and focus on some projects that will show fast results, get acquainted with the results, and then gradually implement artificial intelligence across the board.
But if I want to behave as an AI bot, let's say here, and draw from shipping data, history from the 1948s following the Second World War, the early implementers are the ones, the big ones. And they do it, and then the smaller, because it's a very fragmented industry, it's very sectorial industry. And within that concept, we see that the early implementers are really the big ones, what I call the conglomerates, without mentioning names, and then the others follow. Because usually in shipping, again, I draw back from data, in shipping usually, the early implementers get penalized. And I'm not going to mention many, but at the moment I'm representing an association because the early implementers are getting penalized with no reason. So anyway, that's why I asked the question, and I go to the rest of anyone if you want to say something on it, because I believe on AI, on digital technology, shipping has actually made technology uptake much faster than anything else.
Yes.
I mean, but from the point of view of a provider or someone who provides shipping services or equipment, let's say, or something like that, we might see no. But I'm not expecting a small company in Cyprus with 7 ships to compete the same way with a company with 1 ship in Germany, let's say, or the United States, for obvious reasons, because they don't have the trade. But Thomas, please, and Fouad.
Actually, I just want to bring some points that the other panelists brought up, and trying to combine things onto something meaningful for our audience to take away today. Okay, this is quite unpopular, I know. First of all, what I suggest to all of you, Adonis, I hope this won't get out. We can cut it on the video editing, please. You should try to resist your ship owners. You should try to resist your top management coming to you saying, AI, we need to go the AI way. No, let's leave that craze on the side. Monica mentioned about toddlers, We should try to educate and try to put a break and pour in some sense to the decision makers, not toddlers. Nobody mentioned anything about toddlers, on not eating their birthday cake far too fast. Because after the first few bites, the stomach will ache. And as you mentioned, Andreas, these investments and the early adopters, will end up losing. And actually, I will disagree with you. I think that the company with 7 ships here in Cyprus can compete against a big international player if we do, and if we consult them. That, Manos, would be, our responsibility towards the owners, the top management, etc., on what so right Fouad mentioned. Don't just try to make a leap forward and try and produce a hyper system. No, take small processes to automate them today. Small, tangible wins. That is the key competitive advantage that a shipping company in Greece with 4 or 5 vessels and a shipping company in Cyprus with 7 vessels can achieve. And in the mid to long run, they will outperform, they will outpace the big player that threw in tens of millions, bringing in, big consultants and AI gurus and try to achieve what would be impossible. That has been proven in so many other business verticals in the past, like banking, like telecoms, etc. And it's our responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, to advise our teams and our seniors on this approach. My humble opinion again, Andreas.
No, it's fine. As I said, we're all wearing a different lens. I'm wearing the CEO maritime kind of thing, and I see things differently, and that's why I said I need your opinion, because you're coming completely from a different
And by the way, I'm trying to sell AI here, so
okay.
Of course. Thank you all.
Of course.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Just to build on what Thomas was just saying, I fully agree with you. Another thing that we see a lot, you go into companies where they tell you, I've hired somebody and they've done this, I've bought this and they've given me this AI and this AI. You can have 17 different AIs, now make them all talk to each other. Now, beyond making them all talk to each other, your employees themselves try to see how they're going to get different information throughout it.
Break the silos.
Break the silos, exactly. So any shipping company that we advise, or in any sector, I mean, financial services, we work a lot with banks. Guys, decide your tech stack, build things into your tech stack, don't go the other way. Because now, okay, in the AI world, there's a new era that's starting that's called orchestrators. These orchestrator platforms, they sit on top of 17 AI solutions, try to make sense out of it, and now wait to see how much this stuff is going to cost.
I mean, you cannot have a choir without a conductor, right? So
Exactly.
And the conductor is always very, very expensive.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Anybody else want to add something? Or
There's Thomas trying to sell AI,
yeah.
and on the other end, you've got the ship operator waiting for that AI, and we stand in the middle, belaying the process. What I'm trying to say here is, based on your earlier question, Andrea, is two basic elements that we all have to come together and realize as from the standpoint of a regulator or a competent authority, is that the bureaucracy that we're facing, because it's there, and on the other end, the acknowledgement by the ship manager, the owner, to accept that there is in place XY regulation or directive or on a European or global level that they do have to understand and comply with and play along, and then I think that the results will be phenomenal.
But that is also, I mean, the bureaucracy, the red tape is one thing, but also we need to make the regulatory framework digital friendly as well, I think.
Yes, and more flexible, user friendly. Yeah.
Christiana, a few words on this one, please.
Yeah, in general, I would say that, in my view, what we will see soon is the convergence of various technologies and not just AI. So I believe that exactly the future of shipping lies at the convergence of AI, IoT, first of all, AI, and blockchain. And the reason why blockchain is because we do not all understand that the technology behind Bitcoin is an awesome ledger, which is trustworthy, tamper-proof, immutable. You cannot change it. It's chronological, historical, and we have to use it. And the reason the market showed resistance in using blockchain, and in contrast with AI, which actually everybody knew in one night, is because blockchain moves value. It's like money because of all those crypto assets on blockchain. So blockchain needed to be examined and investigated by international bodies, because international bodies are the watchdogs of stability of the economy. They are the watchdogs of integrity of the market. Therefore, they didn't allow it. But now, with the new regulations, like the markets and crypto asset regulations and other regulations on blockchains, we will see that blockchain will go mainstream. And from my experience in ISO, now the projects that we receive in the lab exactly combine these technologies. And just to make it more simple, since I'm an educator as well, imagine that we have the IoT, which is the Internet of Things. So these are devices. We can put them anywhere. They gather whatever data we want. They gather the data, and they can use it real time or not. So they gather the data. Then this data moves into AI. Then this data get analyzed into AI, processed, decision-making. Then the AI gives us some results. Then these results, again, are data. Then these results, these data, we register on blockchain. And then again, the AI will plug on the blockchain system, and again, the AI, it is fed with data, verifiable, trustworthy data from the blockchain system. This is the future of shipping. And you know why? Because I belong in those who believe that shipping did not resist in change. Shipping is looking for trusted data, first of all, and then failure at sea is not a choice. So it should be flawless. Therefore, of course, we do risk management, but it should be flawless. So I believe that they would never innovate blindly. This is my idea. This is how I defend the shipping industry. Why didn't they do it yet? Is the time to do it? Yes, I believe they have to start with, first of all, trainings, education. We need to have people in all the companies understanding all of these technologies, because data is like an umbrella. It goes to all of these technologies. They are received by sensors, They are analyzed by the brain, which is AI. They go to a trusted database.
But I don't.
And I want to close with this. What is, I mean, regarding the MRVs and the DCS, IMO, DCS, at the end of the day, in this way, we will be compliant because this is what they are asking from the companies. So we will end up giving them data, reporting, monitoring, reporting, truthful data.
Thank you. I mean, I will fully agree with you. They need something trustable, governable. It's been already under governance, so they don't need to go again and again. And as you mentioned, DCS, MRV, I have to check it, the verifier has to check it, and then it has to be audited. So I understand. But I only have a few minutes left. And it's a test for your audience. Unless we confuse you completely, you will be able to ask some clarifying questions. Thank you very much, sir. There's one there, the man in the white shirt.
Kaplan Nikolaos, Hartman Group and Pelagic Partners. Regarding the freedom of data, actually, in maritime, we have free data. Okay, if a state like Cyprus wants to improve and give initiative to ship owners, it's easy. We have CII, we have MRV, we have DCS, we can analyze them, initiatives. What I wanted to ask, though, it's not about the freedom of data, but about exploiting the data. As a state, Cyprus has one of the best tools in Europe, ANAD. Okay, the actual absorption of the investment of shipping companies in ANAD is less than 5% today. We leave money on training that we can take. What practical trainings you can propose to the state in order to incorporate and give initiatives to the companies to train the people to exploit this data?
Thank you. Anyone wants to take this? Monica, please.
I think it depends on the who you want to train and why, the positions, what they're doing in their lives, in their professional lives. There are different levels of training. The single blanket training that you can offer is AI literacy at the moment. So what is AI? Bust some myths and let's say address some misconceptions about AI, because there is still some fear in the workplace, and there's also the fear, which is not unreasonable, the fear that people will be replaced, right? So I think we need to address those before we deep dive into any other training. With regards to technical training, I'm more in favor of very sectoral, function-specific trainings, because you cannot educate people in the same way. We already see, for example, within a single company to have people who have been using AI, developing AI themselves, and then the people who don't know what it is yet. So it's very important for a company or an organization in general to have this. I have seen the trainings by another, I think Christiana is a trainer as well. I'm not, but I think this is the most important issue for a company, to send the right people to the right training. Conversational AI is, I would say, the one tool that is most needed at the moment across the board, and then the functional trainings as well.
Anybody else? From my side, Captain Nicholas, I would say that a training reducing the gap between knowledge about any digital forms in a company is the most important thing. That most probably you have to take it to another, because they have to create the training programs. Any more questions, please?
Hi,
Yes,
Peter
sir.
Michael, OneNet. I have more of a statement than a question, so I'd really like your point of views from a legal or a regulatory or for the implementation point of view. Shipping kind of has to crawl before it walks, right? So what are we going to do about the critical underlying requirements to use AI and reshape shipping. For example, security and sort of consistency throughout the fleets, because we can really, the point of AI is actually everybody can actually become super intelligent at the same level. So we don't want shipping to compete, we want it to completely become reliable and benefit from it as a whole. But I think there's still a lot missing, and I want to know what are we going to do about that? I mean, we really wanted to reshape. Fouad, you skipped really quickly over a critical point where you said, yeah, when we get data structured, that's a big deal for shipping still,
Huge.
right? Yeah. So does anybody have anything to comment on that? I mean, the crawling part before we're walking?
So on the data side of it, Peter Michael, a while back we took on a project where we wanted to provide better information to the vessel when they're troubleshooting something and so on, right? And we looked into the whole augmented reality concept and how that comes about it and so on. And one of the keys was the manuals, because when something goes wrong, you're going based on experience, and I'm sure you know better than I do, Captain, based on experience, or you're going to look at the manuals or so on, or you're going to send somebody to go to it and so on. Then we started contacting some of the manufacturers that go around it to understand what they're doing. And now for that data cleansing process, the manufacturers themselves are starting to build data, clean data, data that goes with the vessels, that allow you to be able to look at training guides, that allow you to harness that data with AI. But here's the catch. They're still about 5 to 7 years away. We need that data now. So the question is, what part of our data do we feel very comfortable with, confident around it? How do we start using it? Because as you said, you got to start somewhere throughout that process. But you're right, security is the ultimate that comes behind all this stuff.
Can I just add a bit on that? I think that your opinion, although I would be your follower and supporter, is a bit romantic, because utterly there is competition in shipping, and there will be competition in shipping like any other market domain. I think that what we neglect or forget sometimes is the seafarers, you know. When trying to build a solution, and we're just talking with the board or with the key decision makers, and we forget the end user on the vessel, is a huge mistake. You mentioned about augmented reality, all right? So I heard that like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, right? And I was like, how you're gonna ask from a chief engineer that operates in a vessel in Fujairah, and inside the engine room, it's like what, Captain? 50 degrees? Could be more than that, right? More than 50 degrees. Thank you. All right. So that chief engineer, and he might be also wearing glasses, right? And he's expected to wear like, I don't know, smart glasses on top of his glasses and 50+ degrees trying to do his work, in the engine room. Come on, people. Are we thinking about this human being? So I'm a technologist. I'm head of innovation. I'm building solutions, but I need to take under consideration, and we need to take under consideration the end user, apart from AI or from anything else. And I think that in many cases, we miss to check that box, and we need to hear more. That would be my romantic, contribution to this part of the discussion. We need to hear more the people on board. Educate ourselves and learn, and then try to apply the technology to create a good and usable and workable convergence between the true needs of the people on board and AI and technology and whatever that is. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have 1 minute for one question, otherwise I will conclude. Is anybody urging a question? Thank you. I'm playing overtime, by the way.
So hi, everyone. First things first, many, many thanks. I've learned a lot on this panel discussion. I've learned concepts of the actual open shipping concept. I've learnt about the idea of just-in-time data exchange and also the benefits of avoiding vendor lock-in when it comes to developing an ecosystem where AI and smart systems could reshape shipping. I guess that what I'm getting to is that these technologies are fully capable of reshaping shipping, but I guess that the challenge here is to get the stakeholders to want to adopt into it. And I would imagine that we end up in the classic scenario of either having a carrot or a stick, that we either have a stick approach that we get or, the actual various stakeholders to adopt it by law, or the benefits in terms of the commercial benefits for port agents, for ship owners, for crew managers, to adopt these technologies because there's plenty of benefits in it for them, and therefore it becomes more like a carrot. And so, I would imagine that this is going to be the thing that will be shaping the timeliness of how we can get these technologies to reshape shipping.
Thank you. That's a very thoughtful point, because in the history of shipping, for level playing field in the global market, we've seen international regulation coming in. Unfortunately, not an umbrella regulation. It's piecemeal again. It's not like aviation. So we know all these things. Thank you very much for being obedient and quiet. I know I'm keeping you away from your coffee, but I would like to conclude this panel. We had a number of things. I would take away with me that we are there. We are dealing with a traditional and very conservative industry, very fragmented, very sectorial, but slowly we're getting there. And I believe the panel has given us every single thing dealing with digital matters that we can utilize today in a very cautious way, so we get the results we want. We also had that there is regulation and that we have to go around it at the moment, and then we have to have governance, and we have to have trust. And with that, I would like you to say thank you to all my panelists for the excellent conversation we had. Thank you.
Thank you.